After World War II, Austria was divided up between the Soviet Union, the United States, the United Kingdom, and France. Just like Germany, it was split into 4 zones of occupation, and Vienna, the capital, was also carved into sectors. But here's the strange part. Austria wasn't even its own country during the war, so why was it treated like one afterward? The reason goes back to 1938, when Nazi Germany carried out the Anschluss, which was the annexation of Austria. It wasn't a traditional military invasion. Instead, Hitler, who was Austrian by birth, pressured Austria's government to collapse and brought the country into the Third Reich. Many Austrians welcomed the move, and overnight, Austria stopped existing as an independent nation. It became just another part of Nazi Germany. Austrians fought in the German army, served in the Nazi government, and participated in the regime's crimes. So during the war, there was no Austria, it was simply Germany. But in 1943, long before the war was over, the Allies had already started thinking about what post-war Europe would look like. That year, they released the Moscow Declaration, which said that the Anschluss was illegal and that Austria should be restored as an independent state after the war. However, the same document made it clear that Austrians would be held responsible for their role in the war. So while Austria was promised liberation, it wasn't off the hook. When Nazi Germany collapsed in 1945, Austria didn't suddenly reappear with a ready-made government. Like Germany, it was placed under Allied control. The 4 victorious powers divided the country and administered it jointly. This wasn't just a punishment, it was a way to stabilize the region, prevent Soviet domination, and manage the transition back to independence. Unlike Germany, though, Austria avoided being split in 2. In 1955, after 10 years of occupation, the Allies agreed to withdraw, but only after Austria promised to remain neutral and stay out of military alliances like NATO or the Warsaw Pact. That deal became known as the Austrian State Treaty, and it restored Austria's full sovereignty. And to this day, Austria, a neutral country that is not a member of NATO because of this treaty. So even though Austria wasn't its own country during the war, the Allies had already decided to bring it back. They saw it as the first victim of Nazi aggression, but also as a country that shared in the guilt. That's why Austria was divided after the war, not because it was an Axis power, but because it had been absorbed into one, but unlike Germany, wasn't seen as important, allowing it to reunite way earlier than Germany.